Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. Today's podcast is number 469. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, and my name is Eric Nilsson. And with me today, I have my alternate co-host, Corey Romero. Corey, how you doing today?
Hey, Eric, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's finally stopped raining here in California, so I'm pretty happy about that. And you know,
Yeah.
I am sorry to say that John White's not going to be with us today, but at least we have you managed to get out and take a look at the bay today?
I have, and it's brownish green as usual, more brown than green, with a slight bit of stench on the east side.
A little bit of stench today. That's awesome. Today we're going to talk about the vExpert application process. The vExpert applications were done in 2019 and voted by on the vExpert Pros, and so we have Matt Lowengath. I guess we'll get his name right. On the show today, he is a vExpert Pro. He's also a manager of information systems, so he's a great community member. We got him on the show, as well as yourself, Corey, to talk about the 2019 application process, the voting process, and we talk a little bit about what made good apps, and so forth. So we're going to spend the show talking about the vExpert 2019 process. But before we do that, maybe we should just give a big congratulations to all the new 2019 vExperts. How did it go, Corey?
It went great. I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody on the podcast. We had some really great applications. Thanks for everybody filling out your application. Thanks for being part of the vExpert program. Really appreciate it. We see this time of the year, we just see a flood of emails with people just saying thank you and appreciative of the program and what we do. And, we don't really get to say thank you to them very much just because we're so busy in email. So I just wanted to say thank you to the vExperts personally from me. We really appreciate everything you guys do.
Yeah, it's great. I was in on the app and took a look at the list. Got a large number. I think 1,700 some vExperts this year. We definitely didn't have to kick too many people out, but we did have a lot of denies. I know that we got a lot of emails from people that they were denied and they were wondering why they were denied, and so thought that would be a fun topic for today to talk a little bit about what the application looks like, the process, and tightening. I would call tightening up of the program, right? I mean, a little bit of the as we have the pros getting in and actually having time to look at applications, I would say the program got a little bit tighter this year, and we maybe had
yes, absolutely,
few more declines than normal, which is good. So excited about that. What else is new? I know you had one announcement with regards to functionality on the site, so maybe you should touch base on that, and then we'll get to Matt.
Now we have functionality in the site. Are you referring to licenses?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah. So we released licenses yesterday for vExperts. I know we are getting towards the end of the licenses expiring, so that was the first thing I wanted to get done. We put out licenses for vCenter Server 6, a bunch of stuff, vSAN, NSX, vRealize Suite, vSphere Enterprise Plus, Workstation Fusion. So, and we're adding a few more. These were the core ones that we wanted to get out right away, just because they had license keys expiring. But yeah, and we put out about 15 different keys per vExpert for about 15 different software pieces of software that we have.
Oh,
we
nice.
gave them.
Nice, excellent. So that gets done. I know that a couple other news announcements we've got going on. We are going to be at the VMUG in Toronto. So VMUG in Toronto next week. I think it's Tuesday. So if you're in the Northeast and you want to come up and say hello, I think you can get up there. It's a pretty cheap flight. Or look for your UserCon in your area. I know we're going to be at the Wisconsin UserCon and I think two other UserCons as well. We're bringing the code booth set up, so we're showing up with the Raspberry Pis. We got little OLED sensors. We're going to be doing OLED programming, and I think I have 120 OLED sensors that I've bought that you can get on Amazon for or $8. I'm going to bring them all and give them away. So we'll have labs running all day. We have a room for VMware Code. I got the VMware Code banner, and we're going to show up, give away sensors. I also got a bunch of Raspberry Pi sensors, the barometric pressure sensor, as well as a handful of other ones. So I think I'm bringing 300 other sensors there. So if we run out of the displays, we'll have some for the lab machines, but we'll give away all the display ones, and then we'll give away extra ones as well. So if you're in Toronto or you're going to be around Wisconsin, I think it's in Madison. No, it's not Madison. It's Milwaukee. The UserCon there, and I think there's 2 other UserCons we're going to be at, and then maybe the Vancouver one. So we're scheduling those up, and we will be there just kind of having fun at the UserCon to kind of do things that are not just presentation, but get some hands-on space and introduce everybody to code, what VMware Code is about, DevOps, Kubernetes, a lot of the other things. So we'll talk a little bit about that while we're up there. But really, we're just there to have some fun and write some code. It's all written in Python, so if you're not a coder, you can, because Python has got to be the easiest language ever, and a lot of fun to make your sensors do things. And with Raspberry Pis, there you can do a lot of home kind of do-it-yourself fun, cool projects. So take you through some of that, some of the cool ones we've seen out there, and should have a lot of fun. So if you're in the Northeast Corridor and you want to come by Toronto and say hello, I believe it's Tuesday. Registration is on vmug.com. Go to vmug.com and register, and we'll see you there. We also will be in Atlanta. If you're a partner, we'll be in Atlanta doing the same type of stuff in Atlanta. And Corey, I think you're going to be in Atlanta with us for the Empower Conference. So if you're a partner,
yes, I will.
Yeah, people can come say hello. We're going to be there for a few days, right? And actually, I think Josh Millenthal on my team is out of Atlanta, so he'll come by as well. So if you happen to be going to Empower, or you're a partner and want to register for Empower, you can go out and do that. We will be down there. We will have a code booth there, and we'll be doing the same type of sessions. We're building a Kubernetes session as well. We might have that one ready to go. So should be fun. This year is the year for Eric and Corey and the team to be out and about, engaging with people, focusing on the quality of the programs, just not the quantity. So I think I'm out on the road probably 10 or 15 times throughout the year, building out my calendar now. So be all over the place. So hopefully I'll get to see you before VMworld. And with that, I don't have any other announcements, so let's get to Matt. So Matt, first off, thanks for coming and joining us on the show. You're a vExpert Pro. You're also a manager of IT information systems. What's your company? Where do you work today? And tell us a little bit about your journey in the IT world as a career, and then we'll get into the vExpert topics.
Well, Eric, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And how do you say your last name, by the way, just so we can...
It is Langueth, sir. Langueth.
Langueth. Great. All right. So so continue on. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, my current role is manager of information systems for a global retailer and manufacturer of automotive accessories. We're based in central Pennsylvania, near Penn State University. Prior to that, I have held several roles in retail, healthcare, and local government within the IT space.
Nice. And now, how long have you been a vExpert? I know you're a vExpert Pro, but maybe you should tell us a little bit about your history as an evangelist. How long have you been doing the kind of evangelist work, and how did you get into it?
So evangelist work with VMware itself dates back to at least 2006, where I had originally started to use the software, and to use a cheesy marketing phrase, came for the software, stayed for the community, if you will.
Nice.
Originally involved with the Western Pennsylvania VMware Users Group, which is now Pittsburgh VMware Users Group, and had stuck with that, and within the last year and a half, have moved on to leadership within the Central Pennsylvania chapter, and leadership there with those or that particular group.
Nice.
This will be my second year as a vExpert.
Great. So most of your work then is with vMugs and vMug leadership in general. Are you out on Twitter? And if so, what's your Twitter handle?
That I am, sir. My Twitter handle is at GSXESX.
That's a great one. I like that. That
Nice.
tells me that you've been with us since 2006 for sure. Very few people have GSX in their titles or in their Twitter handles. So that's awesome. Yep, nice one.
It's part of the history of the company. I thought about that one for a little bit before I went out and registered a handle.
Yeah, it was my first experience. The first thing that I got from VMware when I worked at Sun Microsystems was GSX, right? I got GSX and played with it, so that's how I found. Yep, it was there. So okay, so we know where you live and what you do in the community, so that's awesome. Now, when we introduced the vExpert Pro. The vExpert Pro program, I think a year and a half ago with Val, and so you are in the vExpert Pro community, right? You are a vExpert Pro. Do I have that right?
That is correct, sir. I'm one of 4 for the U.S. and I believe one of 6 for North America currently.
Yeah, great. And Corey, why don't you take us through before we get into what the vExpert Pro role is? So. What was the goal of vExpert Pros in general? It sounds like you're a professional, like you're a vExpert hyper professional. But Corey, why don't you take us through what is the Pro? Why did we create the Pro program?
Yeah, so we created the Pro program to leverage the knowledge and the skills of the vExperts. So we did notice that some of the vExperts really went above and beyond. Just as the community role, and they really stood out. We had people like Ariel Sanchez, people like yourself, Matt, who really stood out and did things way beyond to help the other vExperts and other potential vExperts into the program and helping with the program. So Ariel Sanchez was the first one that we noticed was doing this, and Ariel was talking to other community members who were not vExperts and kind of leading them into how to become a vExpert. What kind of stuff do you need to do in the community? What kind of community-focused activities can they specialize in, and share their information? And what that means is sharing their own story, sharing their own experiences, their failures or successes, with their day jobs. And so we created a program of vExpert Pros to kind of identify those leaders in the vExpert community who are really standing out and helping others in the community become vExperts, or even adding guidance as a vExpert to just do a better job as far as sharing information into the community.
Nice.
So that was I think the main focus that we did for the vExpert Pros.
Right. To get kind of like the home labbers of the world out there that are actually really amped up on what it means to be in the community, and allow them to help scale us out. So Matt, this year we definitely also use the vExpert Pros to help process the applications. So why don't you tell me, before I just lead you too far, what was your experience? What were your major takeaways from getting into the tool and seeing the back end and seeing what it's like to vote and process applications? What was your general experience? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do, Eric, and it really, my initial impression was that I think that Corey, I know that Corey and Val, in years prior, it was eye-opening to see the amount of work that they needed to put into the process. Every single one of these applications is reviewed in detail. They take quite a bit of time. It is not simply a yes or no. They need to be reviewed to a high degree of detail and verified with what those contributions to the community were within the application period. It's really amazing to see that what was accomplished with just 2 individuals, and then as we have transitioned with the vExpert Pros helping with that process, the higher level of scrutiny that we could then take each application and give it some due diligence.
Yeah, I mean that's what I experienced here, and I don't think we absolutely made the Expert Pro program to actually accomplish that goal of increasing the quality of their program. But this is one of the side effects of having enough VExpert Pros is that by enabling the tool to allow you guys to come in and evaluate applications and do the voting. It did have that effect of allowing us to really drill down and take a look. And it's interesting what I've seen from people that were denied, because we get probably 20 or 30, maybe even 40, escalations on, hey, I was denied. Could you reevaluate my app? And when you go down and look at it, some of these apps look really good. And I would have normally probably approved them, going, okay, this looks pretty good. They're all over the place doing these things. But then what I noticed is the pros actually looked at what they were doing at the events, what the articles actually had in them, and what were the quality of the contributions. Did they even talk about VMware in these presentations? Were there blog articles mentioning VMware? How many blog articles did they do with that talked about VMware? So that was actually interesting. Did you experience that? What was your experience when you started seeing things that you were questioning, denying? Did you struggle with what it was like to have to deny somebody's app?
Well, I think it's important to note that even that personal bias aside, not a single VExpert Pro was responsible for an individual application. For any individual application, multiple persons reviewed it. If there was a question, it was often passed on. If there was something that was questionable or needed verified, there was a process in place that another pro could take that and take a peek at it and make a comment, and if necessary, pass it up the chain. I really like that peer review process, that not a single individual was responsible for approving an application or denying an application, and it allowed multiple points of view to take a look at an application and pass it along.
Yeah, it is interesting. The tool has a log where when you're reviewing an app, and you can review it and you don't even have to vote on it. You can just go put a note in going like, well, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, and I want to go research these pieces of their app, right? And then that ends up in the history of the application, and anybody can go in later and look at that history and look exactly who reviewed the app, what their comments were, and then what steps did they take along that journey. Like, did they approve it? Did they, leave it alone, or did they mark it as a flagged one? It's actually interesting. And on the escalations, that's the first thing that I go look at. And me and Corey definitely, get us escalations, and we go look at who reviewed it, what were their comments, what did they experience, and then we try to drill down and see if there's other things. A lot of things that I noticed on the denials is that, I'll say, well, tell us more. Give me some more data, because what I'm looking at the app, it looks like the reviewers did a pretty good job, right? So a lot of times guys that do applications just don't spend enough time, filling out applications, or they don't think through, will we be able to verify some of the activities that you did? So that was interesting. Did you actually end up ever denying anyone?
Yes, sir, I did. There was several that were denied.
Yeah, interesting.
Mostly based on the idea that it was lacking detail.
Right.
It's not simple enough to just say, well, I contributed here, or I have this Twitter feed, or here is my blog. If I could say one thing about the application, it would be details, details, details. The more content that you can provide, or I should not say that the more content, the more documentation as to the content that you're putting out there as a VExpert, the better. Times, dates, forums, audience size, if that's available, the topic, the URL to the video, the post, or the event. The more details, the better.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, Corey, me and you have talked a little bit about maybe modifying the application to allow it to be open all year so that you actually build your application throughout the year. And maybe we even have a notice mechanism that says, hey, you haven't updated anything in your app in the last month and a half. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that when they, 6 months slips by and they really haven't done anything, right? And we're all busy and we all have lots of things we do, and it doesn't take a lot of time to tweet or retweet or to write a blog article on something interesting, but sometimes we forget. And that helping the experts actually build their application throughout the year by using it as almost like a evangelism manager, so that that app form could actually be your kind of like, hey, what did I, and maybe we could even break it, make static quarters sections in the app so that it could say Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, so that you could look throughout the year and go, oh, I didn't do anything in Q2. Maybe I should go, it's only got a couple of weeks left. Maybe I need to go do something. It's just to remind you of what it means to do. And I mean, sometimes you don't, as an evangelist, need to be reminded, but it is kind of nice to just have something that helps you remember some of the things that you did along the way and write them down, so that at the end of the year, your app is actually built and you can just go hit the submit button. So that's another thing that we've talked about. So Matt, you denied anybody. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Some of the best applications that were out there were almost in a spreadsheet format and in a date sequence, if you will, of here was the event or blog post or community presentation or UserCon that they happen to attend and maybe potentially present at, in a chronological order, and then links to those particular activities and the documentation behind that. And then that integrated into their blog. So it was a very quick overview of here is the total number of contributions, here's the topic, and here's the proof that this actually occurred. So
Right.
I think, and if you look at that, I would say this to existing V-experts, that this would be a great time to take a simple spreadsheet and to build some columns in and to keep track of that through the year of, okay, I made a blog post or I presented it, at X, Y, and Z event, and update as you do that. So when the next round of applications comes, you can come back and either transition that spreadsheet into as part of your blog, or use that to help document your application process for the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also just makes you a better evangelist because you just can have a plan. You can actually put things in the spreadsheet ahead of time of the things you're thinking about doing. So it gives you kind of a guide of the spending time. I have my team members once a week sit down and build a status report, not because I really need to know their status because I work with them every day, but it forces you to think, because we have a section, what are you going to do next week? And it forces you to think, what am I going to do next week, right? And I have to do it. Who am I going to have on the podcast next week? And who am I going to have the week after that? So you can kind of start to plan out your activities, because if you don't, it can get kind of harder to figure that out, or it kind of haphazardly. And it makes you a more effective evangelist. So I like that. Document activities, build a calendar.
Absolutely, and if you can check that spreadsheet throughout the year, and it would give you a little bit of a personal status board of, well, do I potentially need to blog a little bit about here, or is there a potential VMUG event that I could attend and ask to potentially present at? It's a self-check of how you're progressing throughout the year and how you're contributing.
Yeah. I think that's a neat way about going about and doing it. Corey, I think I have to ask you, because we did put a sample app out. I mean, Tony's on the call. We used Tony Foster's app as kind of the sample app. Do you think that we saw a slightly higher quality app this year based on the fact that we gave people, some samples?
Yeah, I do. I do think we saw a higher quality of the application this year. Yeah, absolutely. We didn't see a major increase. We still saw, some applications with lack of, that weren't very detailed, but definitely not as many as we saw in years prior.
Right.
I know one of the things that we've pushed really hard in the announcements and in the Twitter announcements and email is to just be really detailed in your application. Write it as if I know nothing about you at all. So that was one of the things that we really stressed this year, and it definitely we did see a turn in the application quality.
Nice. So
for VMUG leaders, I will have to say this, that I was a little disappointed. Please, 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 for anyone that is in leadership or a steering committee, please list what your local chapter is. It's one thing to say that, hey, I'm a VMUG leader. It's another thing to make a vExpert Pro or Courier Val go and try to research which chapter you're a member of. So take the time and again, details, list which chapter you're associated with. There was an amazing amount of, at least from my end, that I saw where a VMUG leader, but no chapter listed.
Yeah, I did see quite a bit of that, and some of those things that we did, like you mentioned earlier, multiple people touched the application. There were a lot of applications that were denied or deferred based on the lack of detail of, okay, all it said is VMUG leadership, but didn't say the chapter, didn't even say if it was in the United States or where it was. So we spent quite a bit of time Googling the names, Googling VMUG, figuring out what chapter it is, putting that in the notes, and then going back and referring and reviewing that application again. So yeah, yep, absolutely. I backed that 100%. More details for VMUG leadership for sure.
And if you're a member of the steering committee, I think it's important to note that that's just, we do take the time to verify these details. We're going to reach out to your local chapter leadership, check to make sure that you're active with that group, and verify those details that are listed on your application.
Yeah. So Matt, did you feel any pain?
Absolutely.
Did you feel any pain when you denied somebody?
No, because again, when I think we should be clear there. I may have made, my opinion was to deny a particular applicant, but no one person held that power. Any denials, I think, were then peer reviewed, and we had an agreement that the quality of information within the application was not did not meet the standard for a vExpert. Anything that I came across was, I think, deservedly so, that it did not maintain the level of standard that we're trying to look for to designate someone as a vExpert within this program.
Yeah. All right. I got to say, that's why I'm a community member guy, because a community guy at heart, because every single one that I ever hit deny on, I always feel a little tinge of pain, not because they don't deserve it, because I get it. You look at some of these apps and they really don't have anything there. You look at their Twitter feed, it's not there. But I always feel the little bit of pain of, oh, they're not going to get to be a vExpert, right? That's the little bit of pain I feel. Just a tiny bit of like, oh, rats. Here's another one. I'm sure they went through the trouble of doing this app. They're hoping they would get to be a vExpert, and then they're not going to be a vExpert. And so I feel a little bit of that, right? Like a little bit of failure that, we really want everybody that wants to be an evangelist to be a good evangelist. And there's some people that just aren't there yet, right? And so I feel that pain of knowing they're going to get the thin letter, not the fat letter, right? I don't know if you have any children in college, but when you apply to college, you get a fat letter, a thin letter. You get the fat package. It means they want you, you're in. So I do feel a little bit of that, but it's fine. So back on the pro the pro program, in general, we did consider maybe doing maybe a apprentice program where we could assign some number of applicants that were going to not make it, to be kind of like put in with an apprentice badge that said, "Hey, you're close. We know you have a passion there. Here is a local vExpert Pro in your area. Go work with them. Set up a call with them, and learn how to be better, so that you're not in the apprentice mode any longer." I'm just wondering, do you think that the vExpert Pro program could be used to help those that aren't really there yet?
Absolutely. I would say for the number of applicants that we had, the small majority that were passed over, if there was a question of why there was a denial, or why that they might have not qualified, to reach out to their local vExpert Pro, and that they would be more than willing to help them throughout, not just at the time of application, but throughout the year, to help to build up their CV and their portfolios, that given the next round of applications, that we'd be sure to help onboard them. We're not looking to, be elitist with this program. We want to grow the number of vExperts that are out there. And for those individuals that did not make it this round, I would encourage them to reach out, and we're going to be open and welcome and inviting, and to guide them as to the activities and things that they can do over the next coming months to build up their repertoire.
Yeah, and Corey, we do have all the point categories that we touch on every once in a while when we're hitting on this topic. And I don't have the spreadsheet up in front of me right now, but they include some harder things and some easier things. So I always look and go like, hey, if you're just going and tweeting, you got to kind of tweet some original content. I've seen apps that I've denied where somebody just went through and retweeted everybody, and they've got like 300 retweets of everybody, and not a single time did they actually tweet anything out that was their own opinion or something that they learned or something they experienced with VMware products. There's these are the retweet kings and the blogger reposters. Have you seen those, Corey?
Oh yeah, I've seen quite a bit of those. We did see some of the, and the Twitter one is I get it, right. The blog one is a little different. I did see not quite a bit, but I did see a few blogs where they've gone away from writing original content and where then they're reposting content either out of advocacy to the blogs or just writing really, really short blog articles like vCenter X was released and just a link to the release notes or to the announcement or to a KB article where it was just really short, where that really isn't counted as a blog post. It's a blog post technically, but it's not counted as original content. We're really looking for things that you've experienced yourself, your failures, your successes, your wins, the little nuggets that you can share, things like that. What we're really looking for.
Yeah, it reminds.
My comment there would be, I'm sorry, Eric, please.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the simple rule of thumb there would be, if you're going to retweet retweet and comment. It's not simple enough just to have, to grab a communities feed and retweet, what the latest releases are. What are you looking at forward to that? How are you going to implement it in your environment? Have you had an experience with that in your home lab? What are some of the, hurdles to adoption for that particular product that was released that you might need to encounter, and how are you going to tackle that? And, put a little bit of thought and time and effort into what that retweet is, rather than just clicking a button and go.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We definitely saw the blogs that do that. We're also building in this subject. If you're looking for good blog content, we're going to be releasing in April a new site called blogbeat.vmware.com. So much the way we have the vExpert app, the Blogbeat app will actually be an app that has sections for all our major products where the BUs are going to put in looking for articles, so that you can go into that site, and if you join the Blogbeat program, it's free, you can just join it. You can go into that site and then look at all the topics that we're looking for articles, and you can sign up for an article. So the app has I'm going to do an article here, and if you sign up, then the BU will help you promote that. And it'll be a great place if you're looking for some good topics to do, that you'll be able to go in, look at all the topics, and look at other people and what topics they're doing, with our goal of actually getting people to do a bit more diverse topics around our technology, because I tell this joke that I just don't need another vSphere 6.7 installation blog. because there already are 20 of those, right? So having topics that are interesting that you could go off and do would be with that. And our goal would be to help you figure out what some interesting topics would be that other people aren't doing this quarter, right? So that we don't get 300 articles on one, just the common topic, but not interesting ones on some other ones. So that's another thing that I think would be interesting. But Twitter is an easy way, to be engaged. You just have to spend some time there. I do agree with you on adding some comments. We have the Dynamic Signal app that we invite all the vExperts to, which is a content flow where we publish content from the BUs, as well as vExperts can submit content into that. And there are like 100 pieces of content a day that go out on that tool. But the tool now has made it so you can't just retweet. They don't let you do that. You have to say retweet, and it makes you put in a comment so that you're actually, engaged in the content as opposed to just retweeting content. So blogging is king, tweeting is king, but it also means you have to share part of what you're doing. I remember the old BBSs where they had this requirement. Corey, I don't know if you remember this, where when you would log into these BBSs using the modems, you would have to upload one piece of content for every 10 that you downloaded, right? And I think that I'd like to actually make that a requirement of all my community platforms, that you actually have to go hunt and do something for every 10 things that you go consume, right?
Ratio enforcement for vExperts.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. I want to.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Hey, we mentioned Ariel Sanchez the other day, and I just wanted to say today is Ariel's birthday, so I just wanted to say
happy birthday, Ariel.
Sanchez. Happy birthday, buddy. Appreciate you and everything you do, and hope you have a fantastic day today if you're listening.
Truly one of the godfathers of the V community.
Yeah.
A great gentleman.
Absolutely.
It sets a tremendous example for all of us.
I'll just wish him a sad birthday. Everybody else wishes me happy birthday, so I hope it's a super sad one, because life is about the ups and downs. So at least
that's true. Without the downs, you don't have the ups.
Yes, if you don't have the ups, if you don't have the downs, then you're just happy all the time. Pretty soon you get depressed, right? So sad birthday to you, Ariel. That's awesome. Shout out there. So maybe we can talk a little bit about internal evangelism, and kind of the idea that you don't just have to be out in public forums, that we do accept applications around internal evangelism. So Corey, maybe you should take me through that concept. What does that mean? And if you can't talk publicly, how do we figure out what you did if you did it internally?
Yeah, so that's probably the hardest application to verify, is the internal champion. An internal champion is okay, you kind of described it there a little bit, is someone who can't publicly or even share with us directly what they do, but they can share the evangelism pieces that they do in the organization. Most of the people that are internal evangelists are people who work for government agencies where they have security clearance, and they just can't even talk about anything that they do, period. All they can talk about is, hey, I evangelize the product within this organization, and then they list those types of evangelist activities, and maybe they'll even give us a customer or partner reference in the application that we can go and verify. So those ones take a little longer. We do things like, we check the employer, we go onto LinkedIn, verify that they do work for the United States Army or the Department of Defense, and then we'll work with the customer team or partner team and mail them. And we also look at the details of the application, right? If it's obviously just hey, I work for the U.S. Army, I'm an internal evangelist, and that's it, there's nothing really to verify there. So there's no actions we can take as far as approval. So that's pretty much the process. Matt, what did you come across? Did you come across anybody who was an internal evangelist?
We did come across some of those, and that was, again, just coming on board to this process. I would again, it's hard to verify, but we do take the time to do those, and that we would reach out through channels and verify that. And I wouldn't use that as, if someone is afraid as a vExpert, or that they feel that they want to apply but can't publicly speak to the specific content that they're trying to evangelize, to come out to the vExpert Pros, and we'll work with you through that process. I wouldn't use that or be afraid to apply just because you can't speak to individual things that you're working on, whether it's DoD spec or whatnot. We'll help you. There's multiple ways to accomplish that goal.
Yeah. The thing I would say in that is that there's kind of even two categories of internal evangelisms. There's internal evangelists that you can talk about, and then there's the ones you can't. And you've talked about the ones you can't, but there's also, I remember, some internal evangelists that are working for Home Depot and others that they're allowed to talk about it. And it's okay. We actually reward people that are evangelizing our products internally, so you don't have to be using public-facing channels to be considered an evangelist. I know a lot of guys internally run, websites that keep templates of VMware, technology, from vRealize automation scripts to Power CLI scripts, and maybe all that work that you're doing is actually enablement inside your company, but you're rated the number one guy that's actually helping people. So vExperts is also a community brand of helping, right, and sharing. And so if you're not an evangelist external, you can certainly be a helping, sharing person that is doing it inside your company. And those are obviously easier to build your app for. But I always try to remind people that it's not necessarily all about just the outbound stuff, the blog, the Twitter, that it can be things that you're building internally to enable, people inside of a company to consume our products easier, because it's all about making life for IT people easier, right? So there is that public-facing internal evangelist, I guess I'd call them.
So one of the applications that was memorable from the internal perspective that I remember seeing was an individual that had arranged an internal customer roundtable with their local TAM and their SEs for multiple business units across an organization, and at multiple times throughout the year, and went through and documented that process. So they're a great example of, not specific content, but topics that were relevant, and then we were able to verify that through the TAM and through the SE for that particular individual.
Right. Then we obviously we have the pros. I'm sorry, not the pros, the partner, vExperts that are working and actually working through channels, right? That are actually doing a lot of channel support, right? Where they're not evangelizing as much as they're supporting, and answering questions to smaller VARs and resellers. And so we get the whole partner ecosystem that actually spins up vExperts as well. So I'm just going through the categories of people that are vExperts, right? We have partners, we have field, we actually have VMware employees as vExperts, right? And that's also a place that maybe you're working on the product and you're taking a lot of calls, or you're answering questions on Slack channels, right? Where you're actually just engaged with the community and adding value, and you're adding value in a very niche kind of way. That's okay, right? And we get to evaluate those guys. So in the land of adding things to the vExpert app, Matt, was there anything that while you were using the tool this time, did you go, oh gosh, I wish the tool would do this, or oh, this particular sequence annoys me? What did you think of? What was your experience using the tool, and do you think there's some opportunities to make it better?
I think that, let's look at it from what our customer would be. So our customer would be the applicant. If we could really make a push to have an open application period, if you will, where a applicant is able to update the information throughout the year and add the individual blog post or VMUG presentation or UserCon or whatnot, and to build up that repertoire within their application, so that we use this as the vExpert syslog, if you will, to help document those activities throughout the year rather than trying to cram everything in at the end. I think that would be of a benefit for the entire user base.
Okay.
I like that vExpert syslog. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's a great one. Corey, write that one down, right? VExpert syslog.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just did.
Yeah, I like that. I also like VExpert MOTD, right? Like I would like an MOTD. You log in and it just kind of has like a little MOTD window that is text based that tells you all the kind of key dates and things you should know about in the community, right? That would also be a kind of a fun thing for the app, right? Log in and have an MOTD message. Do you guys know what MOTD is? Message of the day back in the
Yeah, absolutely.
Unix
Yep.
days. Yep, sweet. Yeah,
Yep,
I
I'm
actually
taking notes on that right now.
I
I like
don't
that as well.
I don't say thank you enough to Martin. What's Martin's last name? Martin
Smith.
Smith. That guy is a god in my book, right? Like so, shout out and
Absolutely.
thank you to Martin because he wrote one of the nicest apps I've seen. When we're building the Blogger app now, we're like, maybe we should just steal the code base, just use it because it's like not steal it. We host it on Amazon. It's we're all in the community together. I don't mean it that way, but we could replicate that because it's such a beautiful app, right? And the work he's done on that. As it turns out, we're not going to do that. We're going to run it on WordPress, so because it's a blog and it's the Blogger community, so we're going to do it over there in a different way. But shout out to Martin for doing all the work that he did. That was awesome. Corey, I know that there was some interesting effects that happened during the hit the publish button that we got to experience, and it wasn't that bad, but there were definitely some places where the VExpert it wasn't the blog article, but the VExpert list got published a week or so ahead of time when we were doing the voting. We had that list that got published early. We also had, when we were actually getting ready to do the announcements, the list got published again where there were some people that were not going to be VExperts that ended up on the list just because the list management function needs to be worked on, don't you think?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. There's definitely some room for improvement there.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the list got approved, and we saw a lot of people on social going like, "Hey, I went, I looked." So, how you become a VExpert is you get the notice saying, "I'm a VExpert." So, if you got a notice that's saying you're a VExpert, then you were in the program, right? So, but the people were, it reminds me of like people that scrub the Apple site for kind of things that are going on that got published somehow in the site before its time, and then they talk about the products that are released. And I would say the same thing with the VExpert app is that if you got a notice that you're a VExpert, then you got the award. But if you're just scrubbing around looking at sites, the app is not perfect. And that list got updated several different times where people were voting, but it didn't mean they were necessarily in the program. And that would be my case there. Corey, do you have any other things that you want to communicate to community with regard to timing of stuff? Because I know you get a lot of mail from people going, "Hey, I got my award, and why can't I get into the VMware community right now and Slack channel and all that stuff?"
Yeah.
Maybe you should use this to evangelize your pain.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why we have the delay of the announcement and then delay to the resources, and the resources, I mean, the email or the VMTN community page for VExpert, or you may not have licenses yet, is the way it works is as soon as we publish the list, that's exactly when it became final. We may have been making decisions 5 minutes prior to that list. So we want to make sure that everybody we approve, we can actually migrate over into the other systems. And to do that, it takes a little bit of time. Like, for instance, the VExpert VMTN forum and communities, to migrate everyone over to that, what we need to do is we have to go through, create a new permission group, which is not a real big deal, in for VMTN. And then we have to create a ticket with IT to take the 2,000 or 1,800 VExperts, put them into a list, add them to that list. And then the VExperts that we put in for email to add to the VMTN Jive platform, their email may not match. So then we have to take that smaller list, email those VExperts, "Hey, what's your VMTN username?" Populate that list. So it's a bit of a process for us. That usually takes us about a week to get done. Same with the licenses. We've got to go through, figure out how many vExperts we have, figure out what licenses we need, talk to some of the vExperts. Hey, what licenses, what versions do we need? I necessarily don't know all of them. And so then we put in that request, and then that takes a day or two to turn around. So there's usually like a week and a half lag into fully having all of the resources and things laid out for the program.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's a shout out. So to repeat, because you have to repeat things 7 times in order for your brain to start accepting them as facts. So we'll repeat. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks for everybody that becomes a vExpert to get in the systems, because when we vote and we approve it, now we could do a different thing where we vote, we approve everybody, then we wait, and then we go get everybody in the system so that everything is ready to go. Then we announce. But that's not particularly how we've been doing it, and maybe we should consider that. But what we do is we vote, we get the whole list together, and we're so excited that then we want to publish it. So that's what we did. And then once we publish, then we go back and we put you in Slack. We get the licenses ready. We prepare the license. So you get announced. You're in the program, and it reminds me of getting accepted to a university. You get the fat packet, then you have to come 2 weeks or 3 weeks later. You come in for university training day, and then you got parents' weekend, and all that stuff rolls out throughout the year. And so when you become a vExpert, congratulations, you'll get entered into all the systems and be enabled over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and you should have a great time, right?
And Corey, if a newly minted vExpert would have questions that about the program or whatnot, what email address should that newly minted vExpert use to contact for the questions, rather than reaching out to you or Val directly?
Corey, Corey, I'll handle this. It's harry.potter@hogwarts.com. Just send Harry mail, and he'll get right back to you on all your interesting questions you might have about the program.
I was actually going to give out your personal email address, Eric.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, so the email address to use would be vexpert@vmware.com. Then that goes to myself. It goes to Val, and it goes to Eric, and I think a few others on the teams as well.
Yeah, not me. I've got a filter. Drops it all in a dev null mailbox. Don't answer any questions. People ask us that sometimes, like, we mailed and we haven't heard back yet. And it's like, I got 300 messages from vExperts today, right? And I'm like, I can't process 300 in a day. I don't have that kind of time. But we will get to you, right? We get to everybody, right? We do go through.
We do.
And the escalations are real, and they're important to people, and I feel your pain. And so we get to people. And on the escalation side, it's interesting. We don't talk about that. Maybe we have maybe 10 more minutes because we got a late start here. And Tony Foster, before it gets too late, Tony, can you hang for another 10 minutes? Because I definitely want to get to the barbecue report, and I don't know how much time you got left.
Yeah, most definitely I can hang.
All right, we'll be done in 10 more minutes here. We're running off the hour here by about 15 minutes, so great. So yeah, let's talk about denied for a second, right? Because I did. There's some interesting deny stories, Corey, that goes on. Matt, it doesn't sound like you're not the emotional guy. So you're just like, if you meet the criteria, you're in. But if you're not, you're not. But
I do. I mean, I don't want it to come across that way. That I always want it to be that we do hold people to a certain standard, but that if an applicant was denied, that we would do anything to help them to come up to.
Right.
Where we're trying to head the program, what direction that we're trying to bring and maintain. I don't feel like that, or I don't want to come across as here's the axe, if you will.
That's right. So in a real sense,
but along those lines, there was some applications out there that were just not quite up to par. I could think of a couple examples where. If you're going to list your Twitter feed, make sure that it's public and that the tweets can be seen. Pretty basic remedial things. But if you're going to list your Twitter account as a source for your vExpert advocacy, let's make sure that it's public.
Yeah, I would say there were three categories of denies that I wanted to touch base on, right? The one category, which I actually feel for people, is I didn't put enough information in my app. I'm actually really probably a vExpert, or I am a vExpert, and I've just been denied, and I don't understand why. And then we have to go back and forth with them. I feel bad for them, and it turns out they were a great guy. They had done a ton of stuff, or a great person, and they just didn't have a way. And their app was pretty good, but there was no way to verify a lot of the stuff that they were in. So the app was good. That's one category. The app was good, but they were denied because they didn't really think about verification, right? And they got kicked out because most of it was not verifiable. Then we have to work with them, and there was probably 20 or 30 of these type of people that we have to work with them. We go verify it, and sure enough, they are really great people, and we feel bad that they got the rejection notice, and we fixed that, right? And there's been a couple of those. There were a couple. Then there's another category. There were a couple tool bugs, right, that I saw, right, which is I looked at, we got their escalation, and we go in the tool, and there's no record of anybody even looking at their app. And they were denied, and there was no one that actually went in. Somehow no one got to their app, and it wasn't that they were denied. I think they were just never approved. So somehow they slipped through the cracks. And I've only seen like 4 of these through the escalations that have come through and I actually apologize to people going like, there's no history here of voting. It doesn't look like anybody looked at your record. Don't know what happened. But you clearly, I've reviewed it. You look good. And they obviously sent me a bunch more mail on all the other things they did. And we go approve them, and away they go. So that's another category, which is just a couple tool bugs, which happen. Don't know what it is. Applications have bugs, as they all do. But then there's the funny one, Corey Romero. There's the funny ones where you get somebody who has the worst app ever, and like literally 3 things, and none of those 3 things had anything to do with VMware. And they're asking why they didn't make it, right? And they're kind of annoyed by it because, and it's like people that really you're questioning why you didn't make it. And I answer back, I looked at your stuff. There's nothing about VMware here. And then they go away. Right. So Corey, I know me and you have run into some of those.
Yeah. We've had a couple of those. Yeah, definitely. I think I had one where, I replied back, and, they appealed, and I just replied back, hey, then I sent a screenshot even, like, there was literally nothing in your application. There was no web address. There were no details of anything. Your name, and that was it. And I think one person said that they're trying to keep it super secret. I didn't understand that.
Super secret.
We saw a handful of those.
The super secret app.
Yeah, super secret.
Yeah. I know there was one that somebody actually complained. Well, everybody gets in. What do you mean I had to do stuff? I thought I just applied and everybody got in. Like,
yes, yeah. We definitely did have one of those.
Yeah. Now it's true that we do like to have evangelists, and we do like you do work. And if you do work, we're probably gonna let you in if you cross a threshold. But yeah, there you go. Now, I would say that, Matt, you bring a level of professionalism to the voting, and in the scalability of the voting. It has been great with the vExpert Pros because now we have enough people that we can actually segregate out apps, and we can actually have secondary and tertiary review cycles, like you point out, that actually just bring the quality of the program up. And I even told Corey that it's not, I expect to see less vExperts this year. That's okay, because the quality of our programs are going to improve.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. 2 other categories that I'd add to that list would be, multi-year vExperts that have grown a little apathetic to the program. I saw several applications that listed I was a vExpert the previous year, but no other content or relevant blogs or very little, retweets or whatnot. It was just, I think, a little bit of, I made it last year, and it's sort of to fall off a little bit. I think that we do evaluate these year by year and case by case, and take time to especially this year, verify all the details, so that as we always appreciate, and multi-year vExperts, that it is voted on and looked at on a yearly basis. That just because the previous year's contributions, yes, that does build credibility, but you still need to contribute.
Yep. And then,
absolutely,
And then to close off the podcast on this, I want to turn the knob a little bit and just invert the whole thing, which is the reality is this program is not what you can do for us and your application. Even though we do have to do this application process to get you in the program, this program, what I like to focus on is what we can do for you. Right. This program is about what VMware can do for all the vExperts to enable them, to make them better, to make their life better, to be happier, to be well adjusted, to have a good work-life balance, to spend less time working on your tech and sharing it and engaging. So I always want to just remember that we go through this voting process, we go through this awards process, but really when we're working with everybody throughout the year, it's how can we make your blog go farther? How can we increase the reach of your blog? I tell Tommy Berry, hey, go watch vExperts and just retweet them on the 500,000 follower VMware channel, right? Give them more access to the whole VMware ecosystem. So I always want to bring it back to like this program is about a rewards program, how we can do more for you, what we can give you. We give you the license, we give you, some t-shirts and swag from vendors, and we enable that. And I always just want to remind people that, even though we go through this process, this program is about what VMware can do for you, because we're so thankful that everybody loves our products enough to spend their time building their career around what we have to offer, and then sharing with everybody else to make everybody else's career do better as well. So Corey, in 2019, do you have some goals around, making it a better program?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the introduction and with the vExpert Pros, I think it'll be a better program for the vExperts and all together. And this year we're definitely focusing on the quality of the program. What can we do to make the program better? What can we, how do we involve more BUs into the vExpert program itself, right? Other than just the sub-programs, how do we get the vExperts access to more beta programs? I know last year we didn't do a great job on beta programs, which the years prior we did. So that's one of the things that I want to focus on is more interaction out of VMware into the vExperts. So absolutely, that's my focus this year.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's awesome. Matt, what do you expect us to help you do to help you be a better vExpert Pro? What's your final say? What's your expectations now that you've been a pro for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months? Because this is a fairly new program. What else can we do for you to help you be a better evangelist and a leader of evangelists?
I think just continue what you're doing. Be open and receptive, which you have very much been to the feedback that has come through the community, and that we pass along as part of being vExpert Pros and being the sounding board for the community to pass that up the chain. And maybe mid-year, June or whatnot, let's get all the vExpert Pros together and come up with some initiatives that we want to make for the latter half of 2019.
That's actually a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
It is. That sounds fantastic.
Yep. I like that. All right. With that, we have been an hour now, so I would say we're at the top of the hour, but we're pretty close. But we'll transition to the V Barbecue report at the end of the show, as always, because it's near lunchtime. So Tony Foster, I saw you on social. I saw you finally did grill the The little green
Brussels sprouts?
Brussels sprouts, excellently. They look brown and crispy, at least the couple that you put directly on the grill. How'd it turn out?
So personal opinion. This is my wife and I's personal opinion. The Brussels sprouts themselves, when done on the grill, not split or anything, the insides of the Brussels sprouts were actually soggy. The outsides were nice and crispy and had that nice brown look to them, but they were soggy. The ones that I did in the boat, they do sit there and caramelize, and we get a nice browning on all of them when I do it in the boat.
I see. Well, I happen to like the crispy, squishy model, so that's why I'm a fan of that. I like the blackened on the outside and the squishy on the inside. So there you go. That looked really good. I gotta say.
Next week, can we continue the conversation of like red meat on the grill? Because I think this is like week 4 of Brussels sprouts.
I know. I was just gonna say. I think we've beat the Brussels sprouts to death like a dead horse.
Every time you say Brussels sprouts, I want to get sick. I can't stand them.
Your doctor is
Corey,
thanking
I
me.
like them the way I prepare them.
Right. All right.
A quick
all
guest
right.
spot from one of the V Brisket members, I think, would be appropriate.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
I would agree.
Want to do that.
For sure.
It is true. We will do that.
Great
Okay,
podcast, guys.
Matt, thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
Appreciate
you.
being on.
Thanks for all your work. It's great.
Thanks for coming on.
We're at the end. We're going to have some AWS services next week. We got a couple guests lined up, so we'll have them next week. Until then, everybody have a great rest of your Wednesday and a fantastic week, and we'll be back here again next week. Until then, take it easy.
Recording paused.
There you go. We're done.
Woohoo!
Woohoo.
Great.
Good stuff.
Great call.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.